I never meant to find that room. If I hadn't dropped my earring while helping Ethan and Vanessa unpack their new apartment, maybe things would have turned out differently. But that's not how life works, is it? My name is Marge, and at 65, I thought I'd seen it all. Between 40 years of teaching middle school and raising two kids, not much surprises me anymore. But what I discovered that day changed everything. Mom, you really don't have to help us organize, Ethan called from the kitchen. Vanessa, and I can handle it. Nonsense, I replied, crawling around on my hands and knees, searching for my missing pearl earring. You two have enough on your plate with little Oliver. The earring had rolled under a false panel in their walk-in closet. When I pressed against it, the panel popped open, revealing a hidden storage space. I would have ignored it, but something caught my eye. Dozens of canvases, stacked carefully against the wall. My heart stopped when I recognized Ethan's distinctive style. But these weren't signed with his name. Instead, each bore an elegant signature. V. Carter. Mother Whitaker? Vanessa's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway, bouncing Oliver on her hip. Her usual perfect smile faltered for just a second. What are you doing in here? Oh, just looking for my earring, I said, holding it up with shaking fingers. Found it. She nodded, but her eyes darted to the open panel behind me. This closet's such a mess. We haven't had time to organize properly. Of course, dear. I stood up, my knees protesting. These paintings are lovely. They remind me of Ethan's work. Something flickered across her face. Fear? Anger? But it vanished so quickly I might have imagined it. Oh, those are just some pieces I've been working on. Art therapy, you know? Helps with the postpartum stress. I've heard thousands of lies from students over the years. This one was delivered perfectly, casual, with just the right touch of vulnerability. But I knew my son's work. Every brushstroke screamed Ethan. That's wonderful, I said, matching her tone. You should show them to Ethan. He'd be proud. Oh, they're not good enough for that, she laughed, turning away. Come on, I made coffee. As I followed her to the kitchen, my mind raced. Why was my daughter-in-law signing her name to my son's paintings? And more importantly, what was I going to do about it? That conversation with Vanessa haunted me for days. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, but every time I tried to bring it up with Frank, the words stuck in my throat. How do you tell your husband that your daughter-in-law might be stealing from your son? A week later, I was having coffee with Ethan at our usual spot when I noticed the dark circles under his eyes. He stirred his coffee absently, barely touching the muffin I'd bought him. Everything okay, honey? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Yeah, just tired. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Vanessa thinks I should quit the graphic design job. Says I need to focus on my painting full-time. My stomach clenched. Can you afford that? With the baby and everything? That's the weird thing, he said, frowning. Vanessa says we're doing fine. Better than fine, actually. But I never see any money for my paintings. She handles all that stuff, the galleries, the sales. Says I should just focus on creating. A woman at the next table laughed loudly, making me jump. Through the cafe window, I spotted Vanessa walking past with her friend Jade. They were carrying shopping bags from expensive boutiques, and Vanessa was wearing a designer coat I'd never seen before. Have you asked to see the accounts? I tried to keep my voice steady. Mom, Ethan sighed. Don't start. Vanessa knows what she's doing. She used to work in an art gallery, remember? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Frank. Come home when you can. Something you need to see. I have to go, I said, gathering my things. But Ethan, promise me something? Don't quit your job. Not yet. He gave me a strange look. Why? Just trust me, please. Outside the cafe, I heard Vanessa's voice from around the corner. I shouldn't have stopped. Shouldn't have listened. But I did. The gallery opening is next month, she was saying to Jade. Once they see the collection, they'll want to sign me immediately. Me, not him. But Vanessa, Jade's voice was hesitant. What if Ethan finds out? He won't. Vanessa's tone turned hard. And if his mother keeps poking around, she'll regret it. I've worked too hard to let anyone ruin this. I pressed myself against the wall, heart pounding. My hands shook as I texted Frank, "On my way. And honey, I think we have a bigger problem than we thought." The shopping bags rustled as Vanessa and Jade walked away, their conversation fading. But their words echoed in my head, along with a question I couldn't ignore. How far would Vanessa go to keep her secret? When Frank showed me the bank statements, my hands started shaking so badly I had to sit down. They were from an account I'd never seen before, in Vanessa's name only. The deposits matched the dates and amounts of Ethan's painting sales exactly, sales that should have gone into their joint account. "I found these in the recycling bin when I was helping them move," Frank said quietly. "There's more, Marge. Look at the withdrawals. Luxury boutiques, high-end restaurants, a down payment on a condo in her name only, all while Ethan worked 2 jobs and worried about affording baby formula. We have to tell him," I said, my voice breaking. Frank touched my shoulder. "Are you sure? This could tear the family apart." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Can you watch Oliver tonight? Emergency," at the gallery. At their apartment, Vanessa was dressed for what definitely wasn't a gallery emergency. Designer dress, full makeup, expensive jewelry. She barely looked at me as she rushed out, leaving Oliver asleep in his crib. I shouldn't have done it. But while checking on Oliver, I noticed Vanessa's laptop open on the kitchen counter. Her email was up and one subject line caught my eye: "Gallery opening confirmation v. Carter solo exhibition." The email detailed plans for a major showing next month. Vanessa had submitted an entire collection, Ethan's paintings, all credited to her. The projected sales values made me dizzy. "Mom," Ethan's voice behind me made me jump. "What are you doing here? Where's Vanessa?" I turned to face my son, the bank statements burning a hole in my purse. "Honey, sit down. There's something you need to see." "Is this about Vanessa?" His face hardened. "Because she told me you've been interfering, trying to cause problems." "She's stealing from you, Ethan." The words burst out before I could stop them. "She's selling your paintings under her name. She has secret accounts, she's—" "Stop it." He slammed his hand on the counter. "Just stop. You've never liked her, and now you're making up lies." "Ethan?" Jade stood in the doorway, looking pale. "I'm sorry, I forgot my phone. What's going on?" "Tell him, Jade," I said quietly. "Tell him where Vanessa really is tonight." Jade looked between us, twisting her hands. She's meeting with gallery owners. About her solo show. Except what?" Ethan's voice was dangerous now. "They're your paintings," Jade whispered. "They've always been your paintings." "I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Oliver started crying, his wails echoing through the apartment like an alarm that couldn't be silenced. The next few days passed in a blur of tears and slammed doors. Ethan moved into our spare room, bringing Oliver with him. I should have felt vindicated, but watching my son's marriage crumble brought me no joy. Every time I heard him crying late at night, my certainty wavered. Frank found me sitting in the dark kitchen at 3 a.m., staring at my phone. Vanessa had been calling nonstop. "You did the right thing," he said, putting on the kettle. "But this isn't over." He was right. The next morning, a courier delivered a thick envelope. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Me at the cafe with Ethan. Me looking through Vanessa's laptop. Me talking to Jade. Along with them was a note. "Back off, or everyone learns how you really got those bank statements." My hands trembled as I dialed Frank's number. Before I could speak, Ethan burst through the front door. "Did you break into our apartment?" His voice was raw. "Vanessa says you've been stalking her, going through her things. She has proof." "Ethan, honey, let me explain." "No." He slammed the photos onto the kitchen counter. "I trusted you. Even when Vanessa told me you were trying to destroy our marriage, I defended you. But this—" Oliver started crying upstairs. The sound cut through me like a knife. "I was trying to protect you," I whispered. "By becoming a criminal?" He laughed bitterly. She's filing charges, Mom. Breaking and entering, harassment, theft of financial documents. Her lawyer says. Her lawyer. My voice cracked. When did she get a lawyer? The kettle Frank had left out started whistling, its scream matching the panic rising in my chest. I turned it off with shaking hands. She's willing to drop everything, Ethan said quietly. If you stay away from us. All of us. The meaning was clear. I'd lose not just my daughter-in-law, but my son and grandson too. My phone buzzed. A text from Jade. Need to talk. V planning something bigger. Check the gallery website. I reached for my laptop, but Ethan stopped me. I need your answer, Mom.
Now.
Are you going to let this go? Looking at my son's face, so much like his father's, but harder now, wounded, I made my decision. I picked up the photos, walked to the sink, and turned on the garbage disposal. Tell Vanessa, she can do her worst, I said, feeding the photos in one by one. But I'm not backing down. Ethan left without another word. As the door closed behind him, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Frank, coming home early. Don't open any emails. Don't talk to anyone. We've got bigger problems. Frank was right about the bigger problems. The gallery's website announced their upcoming showcase, Emerging Artist V. Carter, a breakthrough collection. The featured preview image was Ethan's latest painting, the one he'd created after Oliver's birth. Only now it bore Vanessa's signature. My phone lit up with Jade's call. Marge, she's taking Oliver to her parents in Seattle. Tonight. She says if you try to stop her, she'll press charges. The room spun. I gripped the kitchen counter, my knuckles white. Does Ethan know? She told him it's just for the weekend. But I saw the tickets, they're one way. I was already grabbing my keys when Vanessa walked through my front door. She carried Oliver, his diaper bag slung over her shoulder. I thought we should talk, she said, her voice eerily calm. One last time. You're not taking him. My voice shook. Actually, I am. She settled Oliver in his carrier. Unless you'd like to explain to the police how you obtained those bank statements. Breaking and entering is a serious crime, especially at your age. They're Ethan's paintings. Prove it. She smiled. I have contracts, documentation, a whole paper trail showing I'm the artist. What do you have? Some stolen documents and a mother's desperate accusations. Oliver cooed, reaching for me. I stepped forward, but Vanessa moved between us. Here's what's going to happen, she said. You're going to stop interfering. You're going to tell Ethan you were wrong about everything. And maybe, if you behave, I'll let you see Oliver on holidays. You really think you can just... I already have. She checked her watch. Ethan's meeting me at the airport in an hour. He thinks we're taking a family vacation. By the time he realizes the truth, we'll be gone. My chest tightened. He'll never forgive you. He'll adjust. Men do, when they have no choice. She picked up Oliver's carrier. Goodbye, Marge. I'd say it's been nice, but... The front door opened again. Ethan stood there, his face ashen. Behind him was Jade, clutching her phone. Put my son down, he said quietly. Vanessa's composure cracked. Ethan, I can explain. I heard everything. He held up his phone, the recording light blinking. Every word. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Vanessa laughed, a sharp, broken sound that made Oliver start crying. You don't understand, she said, backing away. None of you understand what I... She bumped into Frank, who'd appeared in the doorway behind her. He gently took Oliver's carrier from her trembling hands. I think, he said, we all understand perfectly. The gallery opening should have been Ethan's triumph. Instead, I watched from across the room as Vanessa charmed potential buyers, presenting his work as her own. Despite everything, the recording, the confrontation, Oliver, she'd managed to spin a convincing story about an unstable mother-in-law trying to sabotage her career. We can't let her do this, I whispered to Frank. The lawyer says we need more proof, he replied. Without it, it's her word against ours. Ethan stood in a corner, clutching a glass of champagne, watching his soon-to-be ex-wife take credit for years of his work. The divorce papers sat unsigned in his apartment, another weapon in Vanessa's arsenal. "Sign them," she told him, "and I'll tell the truth about the paintings. Fight me, and I'll make sure you never work in the art world again." A critic approached Vanessa, praising the emotional depth of her work. She caught my eye across the room and smiled. "Ladies and gentlemen," the gallery owner announced, "I'm thrilled to announce that the entire collection has been purchased by the Morton Foundation for their contemporary wing." The applause was deafening. Ethan's glass shattered on the floor. "That's $3 million, Frank muttered. "She's won." I started toward Vanessa, but Jade appeared, grabbing my arm. "Wait," she hissed. "There's something you need to see." She pulled me into a back office, hands shaking as she unlocked her phone. "Vanessa doesn't know I kept these. She made me take photos of everything, document her creative process for the gallery's archives." The images showed Ethan painting, unaware he was being photographed. But in the background of one photo, partially visible, was a laptop screen showing emails between Vanessa and someone named Marcus. "He's a forger," Jade said quietly. "She paid him to create backdated documents proving she's the artist. But he got greedy, wanted more money. She's meeting him tonight." "Why are you showing me this now?" Jade's eyes filled with tears. "Because she's not just stealing Ethan's work. She's stealing Oliver too. The money from this sale, she's planning to disappear with him tomorrow. She has fake passports, everything." My world tilted. "We have to stop her. She'll destroy these photos if she knows I showed you. And Marcus, he's dangerous. She told me he's threatened her before." Through the office window, I could see Vanessa accepting congratulations, Oliver sleeping in his carrier beside her. My grandson. My son's future. Everything we loved about to vanish. "Sometimes," I said, remembering all those years of teaching troubled kids, "the only way to stop a bully is to become one." I took Jade's phone, my hand steady for the first time in days. "Tell me where this meeting is happening." The abandoned art studio where Vanessa was meeting Marcus smelled of turpentine and desperation. I waited in the shadows, my phone recording, as their voices echoed through the empty space. "The passports aren't cheap," Marcus was saying, "especially rush jobs." "You'll get your money tomorrow," Vanessa replied. "After the wire transfer clears." "Like the last payment you promised?" Something metallic clicked in the darkness. "I'm done waiting." I stepped out, flicking on my phone's flashlight. Marcus spun around, gun wavering between us. He was younger than I'd expected, barely older than Ethan. "Mother Whitaker." Vanessa's smile was brittle. "Always interfering." "Put the gun down," I said to Marcus. "The police are already on their way." "She's bluffing," Vanessa snapped, but her voice shook. "Am I?" I held up my phone. "Like you were bluffing about being an artist? About loving my son? About everything?" Marcus backed toward the door. "You said this would be clean. No cops." "Wait." Vanessa grabbed his arm. "We can still." The studio doors burst open. Ethan stood there, Oliver in his arms, Jade and Frank behind him. "It's over, Vanessa," he said quietly. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I did it for us. For Oliver. Your paintings weren't selling because you wouldn't play the game. But I knew how to make it work." "By stealing from me?" "By planning to kidnap our son." Marcus raised the gun again, panicking. "Nobody move." I stepped between him and my family, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "You forged documents for her. Helped her steal millions. How much prison time is that worth?" "Shut up." But his hand trembled. "Or," I continued, "you could give us those documents. Tell the truth about who really created those paintings. Walk away clean." "Don't you dare," Vanessa hissed, but Marcus was already lowering the gun. "Check your phone," Jade said suddenly. We all turned. She was holding up her own phone, live streaming. "The gallery's watching. Everyone's watching." Vanessa's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw something beneath the perfect mask, a frightened girl who'd clawed her way up from nothing, terrified of falling back. "I just wanted," she started. "I know," I said softly. "But not like this." Not by destroying the people who loved you. The police sirens grew louder. Marcus dropped the gun, hands raising. But I was watching Vanessa as she looked at Ethan, at Oliver, at everything she'd lost. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and for the first time since I'd known her, I believed her. 6 months later, I sat in Ethan's new gallery, watching Oliver crawl across the polished floor while visitors admired his father's work, properly signed this time. The Morton Foundation had honored their purchase, but insisted the paintings be credited to their true creator. Karma, as my students would say. "He's getting so big," Jade said, joining me on the bench. She'd stayed in touch, helping Ethan rebuild his career after everything fell apart. "They grow fast," I replied, thinking of how much had changed. Vanessa had taken a plea deal, avoiding jail time but agreeing to leave the art world entirely. The last we'd heard, she'd moved back to her hometown. Frank appeared with coffee, handing me a cup. "Look who's here." Through the gallery window, I spotted a familiar figure studying one of Ethan's paintings from the sidewalk. Vanessa. She didn't come in, didn't try to catch anyone's attention. She just stood there looking. "Should we call security?" Jade asked quietly. "No," I said, surprising myself. "Let her look." Later that night, cleaning up after the gallery closing, I found an envelope tucked behind one of the paintings. Inside was a letter and a small, worn photograph of a young girl in threadbare clothes, standing proudly next to a crude painting. "Dear Marge," the letter began. "I was 7 when I won my first art contest. The prize was $20, more money than my family had seen in months. That night, we ate real food instead of crackers. Art wasn't just beautiful, it was survival. I thought I could make Ethan understand that hunger, that desperation to succeed. Instead, I became everything I once hated. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to understand why. Take care of them. You were the mother I should have been." I folded the letter, thinking of all the students I'd taught over the years, how poverty and fear could twist even the brightest spirits. It didn't excuse what Vanessa had done, but maybe it explained it. "Everything okay, Mom?" Ethan asked, Oliver dozing against his shoulder. "Yes," I said, tucking the letter away. "Just thinking about how art can save us, or destroy us. It depends on what we're willing to sacrifice." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Oliver's starting to draw, just scribbles, but—" "Then we'll make sure he does it for the right reasons," I said, watching my grandson sleep, innocent of all that had happened. "For the joy of it, for the truth in it." Through the window, snow began to fall, covering the city in a clean, white blanket. Sometimes I've learned that's all we can hope for, a fresh canvas, a chance to start again.